In this episode, I'm joined by Dave Boyce, a leading authority in SaaS and PLG-led growth. With SaaS showing the way in modern go-to-market, we look at what B2B firms in complex sales can learn and apply right now. Okay, so welcome to the latest episode of Truth, Lies and B2B Growth. We have a guest today, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dave Boyce. Dave, welcome.
Thank you so much, Craig. You mind if we just focus on mostly lies today?
Yeah, that would be a very good start. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've got to say, I've got on my screen a sort of a list of your kind of focus areas in your profile, and you helped build and sell 7 SaaS businesses. You're an advisor to a number of scale-ups in the AI space. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of these points.
Oh, this is correct. Yeah.
You're an investor, keynote speaker, podcaster, exec chairman at Winning by Design, and I think you just launched a book, haven't you, Freemium? So I'm kind of thinking, what the hell am I doing with my time? How'd you squeeze all that in?
Secret, Craig, is to get old. That's what I've done.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah. So I think today it's going to be a really interesting conversation. I think we're both from similar worlds, so very much focused on go-to-market. I think maybe we're at different ends of the spectrum. So I think our concentration is very much on complex sales, and I think from your perspective, no doubt you've got experience in that world as well. But I think you're very concentrated on SaaS. So I think we always feel that maybe there's a certain amount of sophistication with SaaS that is ahead of the game for most of the B2B go-to-market. So it's going to be interesting to get your take on a few things. But no doubt we're all in a similar space in terms of making this transition from old to new. And I think that's probably a good place to start. I think in 2025, I think most people were really trying to figure out what this new playbook would look like. And I think as we head into 2026, with the start of 2026 as we speak, I think we're very much about now having to make it work. And if you were to look on LinkedIn, you'll see a number of people that already claim to be there. So I think it would be a really good starting point, bit of an open-ended question, but just to get your take on, where are we really? You're across a lot of different companies and you're speaking to a lot of board members and go-to-market leaders. It'd be really good to get your take on where we're at.
Yeah. Well, this is what levels the playing field, I think, between, complex selling of services, selling of bespoke, solutions, sales of SaaS or even of consumer goods. All of it's changed. Like we are all to square zero right now. So like, if you thought you had something figured out, the answer is you don't. And I think anyone on LinkedIn who claims they have it figured out are probably either lying to themselves or at least to you. And anyone who's actually succeeding, you look at some of these hyperscalers that are kind of testing and experimenting their way into success. They're actually not claiming they have it figured out. Like the ones who are actually succeeding are saying, "Hey, look, we're still experimenting. Like this is an ongoing experiment." So I would be really cautious about claiming victory right now because everything has changed. And you've got a perspective on this, I'm sure. Two things that I'm tracking. One is that just we've come into a new generation of buyers. So Forrester just announced, and I was on stage with the CEO of Forrester in London, I don't know, 4 months ago. And they just announced 70% of B2B buyers, 70% are either millennials or Gen Z. So 70% of the people making the decisions about what they're going to purchase are not me. I'm Gen X. So, and millennials and Gen Z, they have a different way of approaching the world. They have a different way of approaching educating themselves, a different way of approaching buying. So that's kind of factor one, is if I'm designing something for me, I'm probably doing it wrong. I got to do it for the generation that's now controlling the decisions. And the second is we've got AI, and that's what's changing everything. So like educating yourself, comparing use cases, looking for case studies, finding sentiment of other people who've bought from this company before. That's all become super easy. So all the research and all the self-education, even some of the kind of like vendor facilitated trialing or self-service onboarding just becomes easier and easier for more and more sophisticated products when AI gets involved, because AI can do a bunch of stuff that humans used to do that looked like complexity before, and it's all simplifying out. So buyers are different, just generationally, and kind of the selling and education mechanisms have just been completely upended by AI.
So do you think the biggest difference is that, in terms of generations, is the desire to self-serve in the buying process? Do you think that's one of the fundamental differences?
Craig, I think that's a long-term trend. Like when I think about when I was doing research for Freemium, I became more convinced of this. Like, e-commerce was the first time you or I were really able to buy something without kind of human mediation, right? You didn't have to go to a store anymore. You didn't have to interact with a cashier anymore. I mean, maybe there was a catalog, but e-commerce really scaled that. And then e-commerce got pushed out to mobile. Then we started seeing that paradigm push into B2B and very simple kind of SaaS-based apps. Then it got really complex. But the more and more but self-service has been the trend all along. We talked about the consumerization of enterprise software back in the early 2000s, kind of 2010 plus and minus. And now we've got 40 public companies SaaS companies that were built on a self-service model. These are companies, Dropbox, DocuSign, Atlassian. And now AI is making it even easier to self-serve. I honestly think that's meeting a long-term pull from the market. I mean, yes, it helps the economics of the seller, but you think about kind of how you buy things, you kind of want to get your hands on it. You kind of want to, experience it. You kind of not want to take the salesperson's word for it. So any power I can give back to you as the buyer, you're going to gladly lap up.
If memory serves me correctly, Forrester also talk about how in complex sales as well, self-serve is increasing. And I think we're certainly seeing that alongside the fact that buyers are invisible as well, and sellers have lost control. It's quite a scary world to be on the other end of it.
Right?
And there's definitely lessons to be learned from what you're doing in the SaaS space. Certainly, the maybe top middle of the funnel, but I think that there's certainly lots of change. So maybe you could talk a little bit about freemium and product-led growth, which I know is a big focus for you.
The base, kind of the super, super easy way that I describe freemium is it's the business model where you give the base product away for free and you charge for upgrades. Oh, okay. Well, I remember that. That's the same way I interact with Spotify. That's the same way I interact with Canva. That's the same way I interact with all sorts of kind of B2C services. And then you think about B2B, DocuSign, Dropbox, Twilio, Shopify. These were all built in a way where you get the free version. And then you think about AI native companies, ChatGPT, Claude, Cursor, Mistral. These are all free to start until you hit certain limits, and then you start paying for them. So, the freemium model, that's just a way to kind of get your attention. It doesn't necessarily have to start with free, but what it is, it's a self-service way of delivering of a customer receiving impact, and a self-service way of me delivering impact. And if I can do it in the lowest friction way possible, including removing the price altogether, then I can get someone into my ecosystem. And then from there, we can work on kind of expanding their usage, expanding their payment profile, and developing that into a bigger and bigger customer.
So I think, to translate that into complex sales, I think it's happening there too, right? Okay. So I think, my experience over the years, if you're talking about system integrators or consultancies, they're always quite reluctant to give away the crown jewels, to give away their IP and their thought leadership. But more and more they've done that over the years. But I think now it's taking that to another level where they're giving more away. So it's it's more things like diagnostics and assessments, and sort of almost having these kind of tin openers that you can work with the client, but without much obligation or commitment from them, so they can fill you out and can see whether there's, a fit there. And I think it's very, very, it's very slow sales process now, and people are sort of starting that whole journey with baby steps. the role of the website's really changing as well. And are you seeing that in the SaaS world? Because it's certainly changing within complex sales.
I think you've seen it more than I have. We see conversion rates based on clicks from LLM being way higher, like way higher intent. And we see a higher percentage of kind of traffic coming from LLMs. So is the website really the like the place that I catch and convert leads? And is it really the place where I educate my customer? That's probably a question for you. I have a couple of hypotheses, but I think
well,
we've seen that more.
I think we've seen, you know, not with every client, but a lot of clients have seen their traffic tank as a result of LLMs. So, you know, obviously zero click is a big thing now. I think there's all sorts of stats out there. I think Google will suggest something like 80% of searches now end in without a click. So traffic as through traditional search has really dropped. So, but what maybe the positive side of that is when people do find you through LLMs and they do reach your website, they are further down the journey. They know more about you, and they're readier to have sort of a more latter stage engagement. I think the problem we see in complex sales is a lot of websites just aren't set up and geared up for that. So they're not ready to convert that later stage traffic. They're still, like you say, almost creating websites to educate people, not to convert them.
Personally, when I go to a website and I'm like, forget it, I can't figure this nav out. Like, I don't actually know where to find what I'm looking for. I literally just, as an instinct, I cut right over to an LLM and I just start asking it the questions like, who are the main competitors? What is the pricing? And it just tells me, like, it's not hidden. It just tells me. And then if I get to the end of that and I cut back over to the website, it's because I've now become convinced that I'm probably ready to go. But that just tells me that, I don't know what it tells. One, the website wasn't doing its job, but two, what job should the website be doing? Like, and then how do we feed the LLMs? This is a question I have for you: is like, how do we make sure the LLMs have what they need to help our customers find us?
There's the trend of AEO and GEO, isn't there? So there's you know it's optimizing now for LLMs. So you're really focusing on trying to make sure that as a business you're showing up in those questions and those outcomes from user generated prompts, which, you know, it's very different to search, but in many ways there's some similarities. But I think that's definitely a massive area of interest for a lot of organizations right now. There's lots of tools out there that can help you figure this stuff out and understand your current profile, understand how LLMs are viewing your business, and that can help as a starting point from which to build. But it's creating content in very different ways that's serving the LLMs. You know, it's not the sort of stuff that you and I probably take pleasure in reading, but it still has a. So yeah, it's a really big trend that we're seeing a lot. It's how you bring it all together. You've got LLMs, you've still got traditional email, you've still got LinkedIn is, you know, that's had a real resurgence, I think, from a go-to-market perspective. I think the old playbook was very much about capturing leads through form submissions and gated content, and now that doesn't work. Obviously, it's about trying to identify those high intent buyers based on signals, and so that's where we see a lot of focus.
Can I ask you a dumb question? On behalf of all of our listeners, because I'm not dumb. I'm definitely not dumb. I know all of this stuff. No, I actually don't know this. This is a genuine question. So the LLMs have to get the information from somewhere.
Yeah.
And the LLMs are making some sort of, you know, just like Google does, some sort of credibility assessment, and they're kind of prioritizing information based on its relevance and usefulness, and maybe even, I don't know. Is that information? You said we're going to create content in different ways than we used to. Is the information LLMs are grabbing coming off of my website? Like, I got to make sure all my product pages are really good, or are they coming off of some other source? Like, am I looking to publish information somewhere else?
Yeah, I think it's both. It's both. This is still an area that we're really trying to get our heads around. But I think from your own website perspective, your own web pages, I think it's about being discovered. But I think so you've got to optimize there. You've got to create pages on your website specifically for LLMs, and that's a different sort of structure with schema markup. And but then the really important stuff is that LLMs need to trust you. So that's the sort of the geo aspects, which is making sure that, because they'll cross-reference your website with other sites that have got, you know, authority. So if you're showing up there as well, the two come together and you're going to be more prominent.
Like review sites or
yeah,
community
exactly.
sites like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think some are further ahead. I think it probably favors bigger brands with, more authority right now, as you'd expect. We work in the HubSpot world, and they recently acquired a company called XFunnel, which helps you really figure this stuff out. And there's other tools like Searchable that can help you create content that sort of serves the LLM. So it's not like we're at day one with all this. There's some tooling out there that you can leverage.
Yeah, but if I'm a marketer, I'm listening to this, and I'm at day one.
Yeah,
maybe I have some catching up to do.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people think that. I mean, the FOMO is rife right now, isn't it?
Totally.
As I say, you just have to open LinkedIn, and you feel like you're really behind. But yeah, it's the world we live in. I guess what I'd like to understand a little bit more about is how you architect all this stuff and what you're seeing companies do. But obviously Clay's been a tool that's risen dramatically. I think they said themselves it took them 6 years to get their act together, and now it's just exploded. So are you operating with Clay and tools like that?
Yeah, for sure. Winning by Design, we launched 4 agents last year. One of them we launched with Clay. It was a combination of a few different technologies, Clay and HubSpot and OneMind. But we launched 4 different agents. And what I've found, Craig, is you got to have a theory of the case. Like if the goal is growth, which I think it is, I think we can all say that's what we're trying to do is grow. We're trying to grow revenue. And we got to have a theory of the case for how that's going to happen. And generally that, in sales and marketing has taken the form of a funnel. You mentioned mid-funnel a minute ago. So wide at the top, driving awareness to education and interest and kind of decision. Bottom of the funnel is the narrowest part. That's, the end of the journey, right? Not really.
Or is it? Or is it?
Or is it? Or is it? But even just defining that, and in HubSpot, they do a good job of kind of setting up stage progression and conversion rate metrics. And so just understanding how customers move through that. But if you really want to think about revenue holistically, what Winning by Design does, tip that on its side. So now it's same funnel, reaches the point of initial contract, which is actually the beginning of the customer journey. It's the end of the prospect journey, but it's the beginning of the customer journey, because now the customer is going to start engaging with you in that diagnostic or that workshop or that initial kind of low footprint kind of thing. And then they're going to decide whether they're going to keep engaging with you and expand their footprint with you. And so that opens back up. It's almost like the funnel gets wider again, looks like a bow tie. And so you ask how do we make sense of all this stuff? What I want to do is I want to put that bow tie, I want to instrument it into my business so that I can track how customers move from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 to becoming a customer to then receiving impact, renewing and expanding with me. If I have that all instrumented and I can track it, then I can start to run experiments against it. If I can't track my experiments, like if I do a Clay XYZ thing, and then you say, hey, did it work? And I'm like, yeah, it was amazing. Like, it was so easy to use. And like, I've never had list kind of management like that. And their waterfalls are beautiful. And then you're like, Dave, no, I asked, did it work? And I'm like, yeah, like it's the easiest software I've ever, like, no, did it work? Like, am I actually measuring it? Like, do I know what my objective is? Do I know what I used to have as a conversion rate metric? And do I know what I now have as a result of launching whatever I just did with Clay? That's the key. I think you need instrumentation, a data model that's well instrumented so you can track your experiments. Now I can go experiment with whatever it is, like OneMind or Clay or a AEO or any of these experiments, and I can tell what's working. I can double down on what's working. I can retire what's not working, and I can move fast, which is essentially what the hyperscalers are doing right now.
I love the bow tie model. I've not seen that before, but for me, in our world, more formal program and approach to generate more referrals, more advocacy is just doesn't exist in most companies. So, and I think having a real focus on that is just critical. So yeah, I've never seen the bow tie model before, but we'll use it ourselves at some point.
Please do. It's
Yeah.
Winning by Design did indeed, invent it and make it famous, but very early on, basically open sourced it. Like it's something.
Yeah.
This is something that will help the world. So speaking of, ungating things and being generous, like the bow tie's out there as kind of an open standard, and you can get more and more technical about it, about how you define the stages, how you run the math behind it, and then there's some stuff that Winning by Design kind of has made significant advances on, and it's harder to get at. But the basic framework is just free to use. And the other thing that you brought up, Craig, you brought it up in passing, but I think it was deliberate. You said we focus on advocacy, and advocacy comes from the right-hand side of the bow tie, usually.
Yeah.
In other words, it comes from people who've already made the decision to be my customer. And now I want to activate them to bring new people into the left-hand side of the bow tie. That's an advocacy loop. And that's something that not many people, I mean, you just said you focus on it. That's great. I think that's how we all buy. Like we all try to find someone who has experience with, with the solution that we're looking at. But if we can pave those paths and make it easier for prospects to find existing customers and for existing customers to advocate, that's actually a pretty efficient marketing mechanism.
Is one of the best examples of that Dropbox with their sort of PLG strategy that obviously generated so many referrals. Is that one of the best, if not the best example? Are there others that you typically use?
Well, it's a great example. And early on, they kind of they found this, in the spirit of hacking growth, they sort of found this hack that said, hey, you refer someone, you get free storage. And then we all kind of did it, right? But we're a little bit immune to that now. Like everybody has kind of a referral loop. You refer someone, I'll give you a discount off of whatever. And okay, great. That should be built in no matter what. And it actually was the breakout moment for Dropbox. So yes to all of that. But it was also 15 years ago. But there are many advocacy loops. I think about services. Winning by Design's in the service business. You're in the service business. So how would we build loops in? We don't actually have an app. I mean, we kind of, okay. So, well, you think about, what about intellectual property? You said earlier, we like to keep that behind lock and key. Maybe not. Maybe there's some stuff that we put out there that's real value add, a real white paper, a real framework, a real set of benchmarks that we allow people to get access to, and then we allow people to share with their peers. That can open up kind of a funnel that we didn't have before that's content driven. That's just one example.
I know a few people that work sort of in the big four. I think, traditionally they're very reluctant to share their IP and make sure everything's in their consultants' heads because that's their charging or that's their business model. But I think increasingly over the last few years, they've tried to embrace, I think the term's asset-based consulting. So they're turning their IP into tools essentially, and then shipping those tools as part of their business model. So I think that's kind of what you're referring to, isn't it? It's just trying to, and I guess AI can really play a big part in helping do that.
One of the first principles of PLG, which is the world, that I represent. To your point, I've had experience in complex sales too, but the world that the long-term trend, I think the long-term trend is towards self-service. I think PLG is a great kind of bellwether of what that could look like, and I think AI is going to accelerate it. But one of the first principles, if you want to enable self-service, is generosity. So it's literally empathy. I understand who you are. I understand what you're trying to accomplish. I can put myself in your shoes. I understand how you define progress. And then generosity. And because I understand that, here, take this. It might be helpful. See if it helps you. And in a services business, that might be a framework, or it might be a data model. It might be something that I used to keep behind. So I want to actually lower barriers to access impact. And then once they've gotten impact from my data model or my framework or my kind of process diagram, they're going to have me associated with that impact in their head when they need more help implementing or more help extending or more help applying. are they going to call you or are they going to call me? They're going to call me because I'm the expert, right? I'm the one that they got that initial impact from, and I didn't ask for anything. It was a generous give. So that's the kind of relationship I want to build with millennial and Gen Z buyers, is one of generosity. They're used to getting stuff for free. They're used to getting impact for free. They consume everything for free. And then in the enterprise space, they're going to assume that if you can't give me something, then she'll give me something. If you can't help me understand this, then I'll go to LLM and it will help me understand it. So we just got to center ourselves somewhere in kind of their journey and be helpful and generous. And then they're going to reciprocate by coming back and asking us for the next step and the next step.
Like you say, if self-service is a long-term trend, then generosity is as well. We have to,
I believe it is,
continue on that curve. Absolutely. Which is hard for some corporates to embrace, but
super hard. It's super hard. I mean, if I built my business model historically around, let's just call it a library, like a library of tools, frameworks, processes, benchmarks, whatever. It's always been locked behind lock and key. Then the internet's a threat to me. Then LLMs are a threat to me. Then PLG is a threat to me. Then self-service is a threat to me. Generosity is a threat to me. And I will go into a defensive kind of turtle shell mindset until I've become irrelevant. But, for better or worse, the world is changing. So if I can roll with it, I'm not going to change the tide. So I actually want to catch that wave, and I can catch it in a way of just meeting people with empathy and generosity and starting to take some of that stuff that used to be behind the firewall, get it into their purchasing decision flow. They're still going to come spend real money when they need to do a real transformation. I'm just talking from a services standpoint. But I didn't play cat and mouse with them in the beginning. I was generous in the beginning, and so they're going to be reciprocal with me.
Makes total sense to me. And just going back to the bow tie model, the right hand side of that. I don't know if it's the same in the world that you're concentrating on with SaaS, but do you find this is an untapped area for many, and an area where you can get some real quick wins?
Indeed, Craig. So many SaaS companies, and I'm guessing many services companies too, have expansion potential within their customer base that is untapped, because we don't market to, for whatever reason. We spool up a marketing team and we say, hey, marketing team, go talk to those people who've never heard of us and get on their radar. We don't say, hey, marketing team, go talk to those people who already love us and see if there's more we can do. But that's a non-zero opportunity and lower friction in many cases. There may be big upside there. There may be medium, there may be small, but there's not zero upside in marketing to our existing customers. Like, if they already love us, especially the ones that love us, doubling down and making sure that, they're getting all the impact they could on a marginal basis is less expensive per new unit of business than it would be going after a cold prospect who's never heard of us. And then you think about the stuff you brought up earlier, like, can I turn them into advocates? Can I, here's a super this is not Dropbox. This is a super non-technical, very analog world version of building a growth loop. What if I got customers and prospects in the same room together? Like, what if I bought them dinner? And what if I gave them a free framework and I got a really smart industry leader to kind of walk them through what they could do to transform? Maybe it's LLM discoverability. Amazing. What if I ran that workshop and I have existing customers and prospects in the same room? Amazing. Well, that means they're going to talk to each other. Amazing. And that means that my prospects are going to learn that I actually have customers who depend on me to do certain things. All right, well, now I've just closed the loop, right? Now I've used my existing customers to generate new prospects in a way that probably on a marginal basis is cheaper than kind of marching them through a linear funnel of discovery, education, kind of signal harvesting, and then hand raising, form filling, and calling them a MQL, handing them off to a salesperson. I short-circuited all of that, and I built a trust relationship based on getting customers and prospects together.
I can see in my mind some CEOs sort of just curling up with the thought of putting their customers and prospects together, but that's down to not your idea or concept, which is absolutely bang on. It's more their confidence in their own customer experience, I guess. They doubt themselves whether their customers are going to say nice things about them to their prospects.
So two responses to that. I've seen that too. We live in the same world, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I can't get my prospects in the same room as customers. They might hear terrible things. Number one, then that's a truth. And you're going to have to wrap your head around that, because whether you're controlling the interaction or not, those interactions are going to happen. Those opinions are out there on review sites. Those opinions are being shared peer to peer. So if that's a truth that you're worried about your customer experience, go fix that. Number two, when we show up as humans in a space like that, sponsored by our vendor, we don't say bad things about our host. We just don't. It's human nature.
No, it's true.
We don't.
Yeah. No,
we say good things. So I hear the fear. I've seen it a lot, but it doesn't really materialize. Like once they're being hosted by you and you're in their living room, or they're in your living room, quote unquote, your restaurant, your club, your whatever, they're only going to say the nice things. They'll tell you the bad things, but they're not going to tell a peer bad things about their host. They're just not going to do that.
It's a mindset shift, though. I mean, I'm long in the tooth enough to know or to remember the days of user groups, which were always very, very closed groups just
and
for
that's
clients.
A little different. Those can turn into gripe sessions. Yeah.
And I think there's that. That's why there's maybe a little bit of a hangover from those days.
Yeah.
Because that was an open floor to basically tell the vendor exactly what you thought.
Right.
But I don't hear of many user groups nowadays. It tends to be celebratory conferences, like something like Inbound, for example, that HubSpot run. Yeah. Interesting. So I think at the top of the conversation, when we introduced you, you said that you wanted to focus on some of the lies. So and I'm going to spring this on you a little bit, but we always ask our guests if there's anything you're hearing that you think is just complete bullshit.
Well, two ends of the spectrum, two lies that are the opposite ends of the spectrum. One is we just got to work harder or do more. Like, this is a matter of effort. It's not a matter of effort. The teams working the very hardest are still struggling. Like in SaaS, growth rates are half what they were in 2022.
Really?
And we're paying 60% more per unit of growth than we used to. And that's across the board. That's not because teams are not working hard. It's not like, oh, hey, we should wake up and, try. Everybody's trying. Everybody's trying. So that number one, and I think that lie is fading a little bit. I think people are realizing we're kind of a year into or year and a half into thinking that if we just work harder, we'll get more. But the second lie is the one you brought up, which is, we have it figured out. Like the playbooks that got us, the one lie is the playbooks that got us here will get us there. The other lie is we figured out the new playbook. Also, I don't think so. I think we have a lot of learning to do. So I was talking to a private equity partner a couple months ago, and he said, I think we need a new C-level officer, the CFO. I'm like, what's that? He's like, the chief figure it out officer. I'm like, yeah, I think we do. Everything's changing. So we got to put on our curiosity hat, and we got to step into kind of these situations without arrogance, with curiosity. We're got to go figure out how to architect a new way of going to market. And if we figure it out before our competitors, then we'll stay ahead of our competitors. If we stay on the sidelines, we'll get lapped. And that's just where we sit right now.
I think a lot of people will be reassured to hear you say that. Because I think conceptually, many people operating in our space have kind of got an idea of how it might work, but actually making it work, like you say, is going to require an awful lot of experimentation, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and that's not always a message that clients want to hear. They want to hear you get it right first time, but that's not the world we live in, is it? So, but yeah, I think a lot of people will be reassured. I think I recall a panel session at the Inbound conference, and and this is one of the questions I wanted to ask you, really, that they talk about ultimately with AI, the idea that ultimately we'll get to a point where it's, the whole go-to-market process is completely automated, almost removing the human being. And I think maybe that's possible. I'm keen to get your take on this. Where maybe that's possible for high volume transactional SaaS, but I just can't see a world where that happens in complex sales. But
are we delaboring? Yes, we are delaboring.
Yeah.
Like we're handing tasks off to robots. This is the same thing we did in manufacturing. Like once we figured out that manufacturing was a set of steps and each discrete step had a certain set of sub-steps and some of those sub-steps could be handed off to a robot. Amazing. The people just clicked up and started managing the lines instead of the station, started managing the machines instead of the assembly kind of mechanics itself. People didn't disappear. And in go to market, I think it's even more so. Like we're going to automate the predictable. Like anything that can be done on a repeatable, predictable basis, like writing a quote or, signing a contract, that's all going to be automated. We see it already, taking notes and, summarizing interactions, even building kind of configurations. But there's a human element of complex selling that's never going to go away. It's about fear. It's about confidence. It's
Trust.
about trust. It's about kind of stakeholder management. It's about, believability of a use case and an ROI case. And then it's about getting kind of approval internally to standardize. And those are things that take human to human interaction. So the humans are just going to click up. We're going to keep making the experience exceptional and kind of humanize the exceptional pieces of it. And we're going to let the robots take over the mundane stuff, the predictable stuff. And so if I'm a salesperson and I'm actually good at what I do, or I'm a marketer and I'm actually good at what I do, hallelujah for AI, because now I get to work on the strategic parts of my job, not the mundane parts of my job.
Yeah.
If I'm a salesperson
absolutely.
or marketer who takes pride in how good I am at writing quotes, yeah, sorry. That's going to go to a robot.
Yeah. And how do you figure that out? I guess try and look at the process end to end and think about where AI can step in. And yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed. So, we'll work with clients on mapping out that bow tie data model, instrumenting the stages, figuring out how fast and how reliably customers are making it through those stages. Then within each stage, we'll define the processes. Like, within the education stage, there's this, and this. And then we'll take a look at those steps and say, all right, could any of those steps be taken over by a robot? Oh, okay. If so, would that be a high leverage kind of place to deploy AI? All right, then let's run an experiment. Oh, they can't? Well, could a robot help a human be more efficient on that stage? Oh, it could? Okay, good. Then let's deploy an experiment there. And once we understand a theory of the case, we probably have 100 opportunities to figure out where AI could help us. But we also, if we built what Winning by Design will do, we'll build a mathematical model that kind of ladders all of those conversions up into an overall kind of achievement objective. And we'll know that the highest leverage opportunity right now is in onboarding. Like, really? It's not in sourcing? No, it's in onboarding because we've got a really leaky funnel. We've got bad retention, and it's because we're not getting customers to first impact reliably enough. Okay, cool. So then we'll go focus there first, and then we'll come back to sourcing. But that's like a mathematical kind of heat-seeking missile that says, what do I optimize next?
Yeah. You've got to start with the process, right?
Start with the process. Yeah.
Great. Well, look, I'm gonna give you the chance to sum up, and really appreciate you coming on today. But it's been a really good conversation. The people that watch our show or listen into our show typically are the CEOs or CMOs from B2B tech organizations involved in complex sale, obviously that are really looking for the new ways of working that actually do work. So if you're sitting in front of one of our listeners, what would you be saying to them? What are the sort of 2 or 3 things you think that the best piece of advice you give them right now as we start the year?
Yeah. So if I'm a CEO, I'm talking to CEOs and CMOs. Is that right?
Yeah.
First, I want to get your attention and just have you think about who in your market is most likely to change the game. It's probably not one of your direct competitors that you're competing with every day. They're probably smaller. They're probably more nimble. They're probably doing something very different. But I'd just love for you to get that in your head and then add 3 years. And then think about the fact that ChatGPT launched 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So now I give 3 years to my competitor how much, and they're doing something really innovative, how much ground can they cover in 3 years? If they've automated some things that I'm not automating, or they've been more generous than I'm being, or they are kind of more self-service than I am, give them 3 years. Could they be the chat GPT to my internet? Could they be the Zoom to my GoToMeeting? Like, okay, so now I have your attention. All right, so now what do I do about that? There's a McKinsey model, 3 horizons model, 70, 20, 10. I'm going to invest 70% of my time and resources in the core business. I'm going to invest 20% in trying to improve that core business, like innovate on it, make it better, make it more efficient. And then 10% I'm going to reserve for the breakthrough kind of stuff that could change the game forever. Don't put 0 in that 10% category. Like, make sure you've got an oar in the water. Like, if you can see a competitor doing something interesting and you think it's working, see if you can copy and paste that into your business. And if you have to carve out a team to do it, do it. But you need to put real resource and talent on your actual future, that third horizon, the game-changing pieces of this. Because if all you're doing is optimizing your current thing, you're going to end up in the buggy whip business, having a perfectly efficient buggy whip factory, and there's no buggies anymore.
Yeah, it's if you feel that wholesale change is needed because of the rate of change, you need to go all in, don't you? I guess you can't have a quid each way, as we'd say in the UK. I think too often people hold on to old business models because they're so scared of losing revenue. But the world moves too fast now to operate in that way.
And to your earlier point, like, we want the first one to work. It's not going to work. Just change your mindset there. In that 10%, there's lots of failure, lots of experimentation, lots of failure, lots of iteration. But when you find something that works, you standardize on it, you plug it back into your business, and then you go look for the next one. And every time you find one of those wins, it's a permanent upgrade to your business. So it's worth the effort.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice way to wrap up. So those that have watched, listened to this will want to know more about you. So where can people do that? Where's
Amazing.
The best place?
So winningbydesign.com, that's who I represent. Easy to sign up for. You could sign up for this growth journal. It's quarterly. It's a research-based kind of journal for growth professionals. You'll love it. The digital version is free. That's winningbydesign.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I'm also on Substack at productledgtm.com. You already mentioned the book Freemium. I actually think it is a blueprint and roadmap for doing the types of things you and I are talking about. Not specifically, because the specifics are going to change, and they're always changing. But conceptually and first principles wise, if you can get some of these kind of frameworks into your head, you can go experiment your way to greatness.
Well, I'm sure I'll certainly be checking out Freemium. Just want to say again, thanks for your time today. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show.
Rock on, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, help us out by subscribing or even leave us a review. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.